Welcome in for another edition, a special edition on a Wednesday of the Morning Espresso on the SDH Network, brought to you by our friends at Oglethorpe University, Atlanta's premier undergraduate learning experience and soccer powerhouse. I'm Jason Longshore. It's match day in Atlanta. Atlanta United hosting Orlando City tonight. 6:30 pregame show on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. 7:40 kickoff as the Lions of Orlando City come to visit the Five Stripes. We'll get into that one here in just a minute. Here's a little bit of a shorter edition of the Espresso as we get match day started this morning. St. Louis City, they fired Olaf Melberg 15 games into his tenure. St. Louis are 14th in the Western Conference with 11 points, 2 wins, 8 losses, 5 draws, 11 goals scored in 15 games, third fewest in MLS. Defensive form, they started the season with 4 straight shutouts. It has not been that good since. 11-game unbeaten run, 3 draws, 8 losses in that time span. They started the year with those 4 straight clean sheets, winning 2 of those matches. David Critchley, the head coach of St. Louis City 2, he will take over as the interim coach while the club looks for a new head coach. It's been interesting to see the reaction to this when it came out last night. League pundits seem to really disagree on the level of talent on the roster. I see some people say that this is a playoff level team and they're underperforming, and I see others say that it's not a playoff level team. I'm kind of in the latter side. I don't know if this team has enough talent to be considered a playoff level team with the types of players that are being brought in as well, because these are not necessarily players that would fit in every other team. You have a style of play that Lutz Steel seemingly wants to really stick with. Players that are being brought in to fit that it feels a little more rigid. It feels like you're looking for very specific profiles. It feels like you want the team to play in a very specific way. You're trying to build something here. You're not going for just straight up talent. You're not going to out talent anybody with the way that this team is being built. That's not the intention from Lutz Steel. The problem is if you're going to build, you're not giving anybody time to build. You're looking for your third full-time manager and you haven't finished your third season yet. With this style of play and with the level of players that you are bringing in and the types of players you are bringing in, I think there has to be more patience. And the problem is St. Louis City, when you launch as an expansion team in MLS, you get extra allocation money. You get a bundle of goodies that helps you build a team faster to be competitive faster. And we've seen some teams take advantage of that. St. Louis has not, and they've kind of burned through that window. I think the window is basically shut on that. So now what do you do? I also have a question, and I said this in the very, very beginning when it became obvious the route that St. Louis was going to go in terms of style of play. I'm really starting to wonder if this style of play suits the soccer culture of St. Louis. St. Louis has a soccer culture, goes back decades, one of the more established in the United States. I think there is a mindset of how they like to see the game played. I do think that entails being more ball dominant and being less press dominant, being less focused on what you do off the ball. I think St. Louis is a soccer city that enjoys the ball. That's not how Lutz Steel is building this team. And you're into the third year now where I don't think the patience has been given for the team to build. I think you have to build it if you're going to go this way, which means you have to take more time for it to reach whatever level it can get to. And the patience is not there. So I don't know where St. Louis goes next. Do they change up the style of play? Probably not. If Steel is still making the decisions. Do they change up their recruitment policies? Probably not. Does anything else dramatically change? I hate to say probably not, but that's kind of where I'm leaning at the moment because you'll get a bump from a new coach potentially, and you'll get a coach who suits it and really connects with the group. And I think you're looking at a ceiling which is similar to what they did in year one under Bradley Carnell. I don't know if that ceiling is much higher in the way that they are trying to build, if it's even truly that high. Just have to wait and see. But St. Louis City back in the market for a new manager. Talked about the game tonight with Atlanta and Orlando. Orlando has won 3 in a row. They're unbeaten in 12 league matches, 6 wins, 6 draws in that time span. Their last league loss was game 3. Atlanta ended their unbeaten streak, or a winless streak is the better way to put it. They have a one-game winning streak, and they're trying to make it a streak with multiple. It's not going to be easy against Orlando City tonight. We'll see what the lineup looks like for both teams coming off a short rest. Atlanta coming off of a little bit shorter rest. We'll see what the energy levels can be. These midweek games can be tough, especially the second time in a month where fatigue has started to add up a little bit. Games around the league tonight that have grabbed my attention. Miami, they have not won in their last 4 games. They'll host Montreal, who has only won once all season. Feels like a game where if Miami doesn't get a win, things get a little weird as they get ready for the Club World Cup. Columbus, winless in their last 4, 3 draws in that time span. They host Nashville, who is unbeaten in their last 6 with 4 wins in that run. San Diego has been one of the big turnarounds here lately. They go to Seattle, 4 wins in their last 5, a draw in the other one. They had lost 3 in a row before that. Seattle, 5-1-2 in their last 8. Bruce Arena's San Jose Earthquakes, they're unbeaten in 5, 3 draws out of that 5, but still have not lost in 5. They'll go to Carson, California to face the LA Galaxy, who have lost 6 of their last 7 and are still looking for their first win in their title defense season. It's just insane for Greg Vanney and all the injuries he's had to deal with, but also no wins at all yet this season. We'll just have to wait and see where this goes for the Galaxy. Carlos Vela, he announced his retirement yesterday. He still holds the MLS records for most goals in a season with 34, most goal contributions in a season with 49, and the fastest player to score 20 goals in a season. He did that in 21 games, all from his incredible 2019 season with LAFC. He will be a black and gold ambassador now for the club. An incredible career and an incredible player in Major League Soccer. Carlos Vela officially announced his retirement yesterday. The big game today internationally is the Europa Conference League final. It's Real Betis against Chelsea. This competition has kind of turned into, I don't know, the underdog competition. And this matchup for everybody but Chelsea fans, sorry, Blues, I think a lot of people around the world are rooting for Real Betis. They've never won a European title. This is a team led by Manuel Pellegrini, and he is a very well respected manager. I think they play good football. Really excited to see this match because of the scale of the matchup here on a lot of different levels. It is a little bit of David versus Goliath. Chelsea is seen still as a Goliath in terms of spending versus a team like Real Betis. You also get the situation of Enzo Maresca and Manuel Pellegrini. In a lot of ways, Pellegrini is Maresca's coaching father. I mean, Maresca played for him at Malaga, was an assistant for him at West Ham. Maresca said, I learned a lot from Manuel. The most important thing was that he told me you have to treat players as if they were your children. And he talked so much about how he's been a mentor to him. Pellegrini said, the truth is, I thank Enzo for his words. I know him as a player, as a friend, and as an assistant at West Ham. We have maintained a relationship off the pitch many times, and I think he's a manager who's learned from many. Worked with Guardiola, as Pellegrini went on to say. He's passionate about football. He's been in the game for a few years, and he's doing brilliantly. He's constantly learning from everyone. Pellegrini also kind of foresaw this coming. He texted Maresca at the beginning of the league phase. He said, see you in the final. And he also called him when he saw that both had clinched. He said, I called to tell him I was very happy to play in the final with him. Very cool things in these links between these two clubs. I'm looking forward to seeing the continued revitalization of Isco, a player that I've always enjoyed in Spain. He's back in the national team now. But Chelsea's got an opportunity to make some history here. They would be the first team in Europe to win 4 different UEFA tournaments. They'd won the old Club Winners' Cup. They've won the Europa League. They've won the Champions League. Now they could add the Conference League to that. Would be very, very interesting if they can pull that off. Another little element of history in this. Since 2002, in major European finals, when a Spanish team has played, national team or club teams, the Spanish team has won. Spanish teams have not lost a major European final since Liverpool beat Alaves in, I believe, the 2001 UEFA Cup final. That's a lot of finals that Spanish teams have been able to win, not even just against English teams. Let's see if that continues here. Real Betis and Chelsea, 3 o'clock kick. You can watch it on Paramount Plus. Couple other updates quickly before we wrap up this edition of the Espresso. Lamine Yamal, new contract at Barcelona. He had signed one as he turned pro a couple of years ago, and now he's won the Euros with Spain. He helped Barcelona to a double this season. He could win the Ballon d'Or over this past season at the next award ceremony. Deal runs through 2031. And what I'm curious to see is what this will mean for Barcelona's squad expenditure limits with La Liga. His base salary has jumped over 20 million euros. We know how up against that limit they were last year. I don't know where the revenues are going to fall. I wonder if they're going to have to reduce spending in other areas because of paying Lamine Yamal more. And they absolutely needed to pay him more. You got to keep him happy. He could be the best player in the world for the next decade. But what is that going to do for the rest of the squad? We'll find out over time. And then I'm sure there will be 5,000 tabloid articles about it and probably some ways to try to get around it. Maybe more VIP tickets being sold. I don't know. Stay tuned. Manchester United on the other end of the scale. Well, maybe the same end of the scale, actually. They reportedly tried to spread out the payments in multiple different ways, but finally have agreed to pay the release clause for Mateus Cunha of Wolves. It'll cost £62.5 million over 3 payments. Initially tried 5 payments, then they tried 4, and then finally they said, all right, we'll take this layaway plan. It's 3, we're good. Now they got to do personal terms and all that stuff. Arsenal, kind of in the same situation. They are finalizing a deal to sign Real Sociedad midfielder Martin Zubimendi. This is according to Sky Sports. They've met the conditions of the £51 million release clause in his contract. Arsenal will next do the medical and agree to personal terms. The next step for Arsenal is to bring in a number 9 to truly challenge for trophies in a big way. New sporting director Andrea Berta, he has been impressed with Victor Gyökeres and RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko as another potential target, the 2 players that have really grabbed his attention. One that had not been mentioned with Arsenal, at least lately, looks like he's headed to Napoli. Jonathan David, the Canadian international. Il Corriere dello Sport has announced that Napoli have reached a verbal agreement with Jonathan David of Lille, and he would be headed to the champions. So Napoli, we don't know what's going to happen with Antonio Conte. There's reports that he's going to sit down with the head of the club, Aurelio De Laurentiis, going to sit down on Friday to talk about staying on. It looked like Conte was going to leave. Now, maybe that's not a definite possibility. Max Allegri waiting in the wings. But we do know that Napoli has gone out and is very close to a deal with Kevin De Bruyne. And now it sounds like they have a verbal agreement for a deal with Jonathan David, defending champions now. Napoli trying to reload a little bit here and maybe keep Conte in place. Going to be interesting to watch what happens in Italy. That'll do it for this edition of the Morning Espresso. We'll be back tomorrow to recap Atlanta and Orlando, other games around MLS. We'll talk Conference League, and we'll start to look ahead more and more to the Club World Cup, the play-in match on Saturday between LAFC and Club America. All of that to come. Don't forget, pregame coverage on 92.9 The Game for Atlanta United starts at 6:30 tonight with Abe Gordon and Madison Cruz. Kickoff will be at 7:40. Garth Lagerwey will talk to Mike Conti and I just before 7 o'clock. Hopefully you can join us on the radio and on the Odyssey app.